If I was ever in a desert island situation and I could only have 5 or so anime accessible to me, one of those shows would probably be Ouran High School Host Club. Not because it's particularly perfect or deep and meaningful, but because it's probably the most rewatchable show I've ever seen. I honestly have no idea how many times I've rewatched the show out of how charmingly entertaining it is. Even when I put it on in the background, I usually end up watching it again immersed in the story I've already seen hundreds of times because the draw is just so powerful. So, how does a reverse harem comedy of all things stick with me throughout these years? Well, pretty easily apparently. Haruhi Fujioka is a commoner honor student at the prestigious Ouran Academy. Looking for a place to study, Haruhi incidentally runs into the school's infamous host club, a guy-filled club whose purpose is to keep the ladies of the school company. Not wanting to get involved with the crazies and weirdos of the club, Haruhi tries to escape but accidentally breaks an expensive vase the club had going for auction. Now in debt, Haruhi is subjected to become the club's gopher, and in a string of events, is thrown into hosting duties of the establishment. However, there's a minor issue. Haruhi's a girl. Now, she doesn't actually care about how people see her, but if she can't serve guests as a boy, then she'll have to go back to paying the debt the harder way. So what follows are the shenanigans of Haruhi and her newfound indentured servitude to a string of haughty, spoiled, and unaware rich boys. I've seen a good deal of reverse harem shows, and they usually range from okay to better than okay. But for some reason, I'm usually always coming back to Ouran to get my reverse harem fix. Which makes me sound like some sort of addict or something, but I'm not. Shut up. On the surface, Ouran's very much like others of its kind. A girl surrounded by hot but eccentric guys trying to navigate school and romance. Except Ouran stands out on his own away from that last point, and the focus isn't seen in the relationship status among the group, but rather the avoidance of addressing those themes altogether. There is romance in the show, like when the club helps out would-be couples and such, and even when feelings begin to sprout among the guys for Haruhi's attention, but overall, the focus lies in the cast's friendship and the unusual circumstances surrounding Haruhi. This makes the hyperbolic situations elevated to function more as a means to personify the characters and tell snappier jokes, with the ideas of romance more as an aside. In developing the characters, it helps establish them in more grounded roots while also making sure their unique quirks give the gags more standing. At the center of it all is Haruhi, who is probably the best character in the show despite taking on the straight man role. She's a cool, collected, and open person who has her limits, but values the simpler things in life like modest living and her dad. She tethers the otherwise crazy club to some realm of realism. If she didn't act or work the way she did, these would be the most obnoxious brats to follow for 26 episodes. But in acting as that common sense among snobby rich kids, she not only steals the show by being this beacon of sanity, but she herself develops into someone who can open up more to her own faults and fears. She doesn't get them, and they don't get her, but there is a camaraderie among them in understanding one another's behaviors and personas. Take the episode where the club is dragged to a commoner's shopping mall. As most of them wanted to do their own thing, Kyoya, the snooty, grumpy accountant of the group, stays behind and runs into Haruhi. As they hang out, it's clear that while Haruhi knows the least about Kyoya, she understands that he has his moments of vulnerability and kindness despite his usually prickly manner, and appreciates him all the more. It's not a groundbreaking change in their relation, but still develops as one of two humans learning more about each other. And that's essentially what the show is, the gradual connection between a girl and her weirdo friends. But does that warrant me claiming its rewatchability? I mean, is that so enthralling that it needs to be looked over time and time again? Well, while the formula is nice and played and written well, it's the atmosphere that glues it all together. There's a haughty air about this school, but not so out of malice, but ignorance, so the learning of common traditions becomes its own charming little venture. In these scenes, they're framed in excellent shots of how big the school is, or how small and reserved Haruhi's life is in comparison. The scaling between these lifestyles is wonderfully portrayed in these shots, and they broaden the scope of how Haruhi and the viewers see the host club, deepening that connection despite how foreign they seem. Not to mention, it's just charming. Everyone's incredibly likable in some aspect, which is funny because part of their personalities are manufactured, just to sell this image of handsome boys. So when you do eventually get to know the real versions of these kids, you find they're just as charming, if not more so, because of their free expression. All in all, Ouran is a fascinating lens into the tale between a chill girl and the affluent insanity around her. It's caked in a prestigious atmosphere on the surface, but is wildly kooky and funny when you get down to the nitty-gritty of it. It has a delightful cast led by one of shoujo's best heroines, a sharp sense of comedy and drama here and there, and way too catchy theme songs for its own good. It's the show I've rewatched 20 plus times already, and next time I do it again, I'll kiss fall in love all the same.